Hello friends, Raj Kapoor here. And today in this final video on the series on nonprofit entrepreneurship, I'm going to bring to you how nonprofits can incorporate entrepreneurship in their work. So in the first three videos, we started with speaking about your entrepreneurial journey. Then we talked about becoming a nonprofit entrepreneur. Third video was what it means to be an entrepreneur in a nonprofit. And today we are going to end the series with how nonprofits can incorporate entrepreneurship into their work. And as you might be seeing, this series is very different from anything you might have heard or seen before, because most of the people who are in nonprofits, they only think with that one cap on. With me being in nonprofits and having businesses on the side, I always looked at the opportunities in nonprofits, which can come from outside, which can sustain nonprofits financially. Because that is the most important thing, I believe, apart from the great work they always do. So let's start with this and end this series to see how we can incorporate entrepreneurship into the work of a nonprofit. So social enterprises are now increasingly actually in vogue, okay, among the nonprofit. And as a result, many organizations have started exploring across the world how they might practically introduce these concepts into their structure and their programming. Now, obviously, this requires you to think out of the box. Entrepreneurs are now joined by social entrepreneurs, and we spoke about that, and also social intrapreneurs, okay? Individuals who use entrepreneurial spirit to manage an autonomous program unit, a business unit within the nonprofit that delivers the social impact within the larger nonprofit, okay? So if the nonprofits can leverage this spirit and use more of these business methodologies, then they can drive innovation through risk-taking, improved services in the social realm, and increased cost effectiveness. So what happens is this can actually become a win-win situation, but it has to be dealt carefully with the process that a nonprofit still remains a nonprofit. But given that funding sources are drying up, more and more people are vying for similar monies, doesn't it make sense that if you're able to infuse things into your nonprofit through a different source, then you have that advantage and an added edge? And what I'm telling you, most people are not going to be bringing to you, because you have to wear a very different thinking hat for these things. But what I'm telling you is, hear me out, because this, I believe, is really important. And I know this works. Many organizations I know have made it work, and it has really been helpful to the nonprofits. And in the end, who is it helpful for? The people you're serving. That's the bottom line. Now, entrepreneurship combines risk tolerance with the go-getter mentality. Okay, the go-getter mentality to design and launch a new business. Chris Meehan of Hayden Green Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Nottingham University Business School has written that there are 7 must traits to be a successful intrapreneur. And these are, first is the passion. You have to have that passion in you to get to this level. Second is creativity. That's when I told you, you have to start thinking out of the box. You have to be a master in the art of persuasion, because if you have to persuade people, the funders, to take a look at this, then you have to master that art of persuasion. Resiliency. Resiliency is a major factor in it. The person needs to be a team player, because you cannot do it alone. This has to be a team effort. The ability to seize the moment, And the ability to seize the moment means that many times when an opportunity comes up, you do not stagnate. You need to seize that opportunity right away, whether you are fully resourced or not, whether you are fully prepared or not. And then you create the preparation, or you create your wings as you go down the hill. Okay. And finally, bravery. Because to do this, you do need to be brave to do these things. We nurture social entrepreneurship across leadership when we take a look overall globally, and we find that these leaders who have done these things are actually those who are trying to create a culture where people can take risks. Most of the nonprofits that I consulted and worked with would not want you to take risks. They were content with the status quo. And once they're content with the status quo, the growth is not there. So where the culture is that you are able to take risks, learn from your mistakes, and respond quickly to the changing marketplace, that's where things start working. Obviously, it's easier said than done, because that social entrepreneurship is a different ball game, which has to be thought of in a different light. Now, culture for an organization, from my perspective, is a very, very important thing. So if you have an organization, either you're running it, you're working in it, or you're going to be a part of it, does it have a strong culture which promotes innovation, which promotes risk-taking, which promotes thinking? Do you know what Peter Drucker said? Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you're looking into strategy, as most people are, first get your culture strong. Organization's culture becomes a must. With me specifically looking at so many organizations and working with them, I've found that the culture becomes the stronghold. If the leader is strong and they're able to make a culture which is strong, the organization starts growing exponentially, not linearly, it is exponential. And I have seen that. I've worked with it, I've done it. So look at the culture. See what sort of culture is it. Can you change the culture? So one of the aspects which I had infused in one of the nonprofits was that you start charging for your products and services. In some of the nonprofits, they just shunned me. We cannot do this. Okay, these are my reasons. Even if it is a modest amount, charge it. And the reason for that is you can easily charge when you're giving people medicines or nutritious foods or supplements. But if you are able to levy a small fee for the information, the advice, and any related services, it becomes a big difference. I'll tell you why. In one of the organizations, there was this youth program where we were giving advice. We had all these social workers who were giving advice. Obviously, we were going out and we were trying to get the funding for it. But one of the things we did was we infused that there is a small fee. And by small fee, it was a relatively very small fee. Obviously, in the beginning, there were some butt heading and everything because most of the social workers did not want it. But once implemented it, the differential was huge. I'll tell you why. Because now there is skin in the game for the person who is paying even that minimal amount. Many of the people who were just canceling their appointments on whim never showed up. Now, because they had to pay, were showing up. It was a huge difference, and we couldn't have known until we tried it. So see if you are able to charge for your services, even if it is a small amount. It is helpful both to the organization for its sustainability, but also to the person who is paying it, because now they have something in the game. That's how it is. Number two, what about the rewards? Most of the nonprofits don't reward their employees, to the extent that it should be. Now, a part of the change of culture is that you start thinking, how can you reward the employees? Or are you rewarding the employees? Or is it just that little bit of cola money, cost of living increase that you're giving on a regular basis? Okay, start thinking of that. Focus on, what do you focus on? Process, or do you focus on the results? Most of them focus on the process, not the results. Again, when you're trying to change the culture and you're trying to bring entrepreneurship into a nonprofit, you need to start hiring people who think and work that way. Okay, it's difficult to get people into nonprofits, but if you're able to get people to think, who think in those ways, those would be really great addition. Now, they may not be coming directly from your nonprofit world. They might be commercially minded, but you have the opportunity to build from their knowledge and their capacity. Okay. Now, at this juncture, one of the things to be careful is that once you start doing all this, many times the donors can get apprehensive because sometimes they don't like seeing the change. So over here, you need to be completely transparent to your board, to your funder. Board has to be on your side, obviously, if you have to do this. But for your funders, you need to be very transparent. Once they see what you're trying to do, they will be on board for you. And many times they will be happy to help you do this because many of the donors are coming from the corporate world. And once they see that you're trying to infuse entrepreneurship into the nonprofit, they would definitely, most of them, be on board. And you have to just do it the right way more than anything else. Now, once you have started doing this, you have to hold yourself accountable. Okay, you have to have some rigorous standards to see if these things are working or not. You have to have agreed upon matrix, some published agreed upon matrix, which you need to consistently see whether you're getting on the mark or you're off the mark. You need to set up some KPIs. Okay, if you don't know what KPIs are, go and take a look. Okay, this is an important concept which is used. I'm not going to get into detail on that, but maybe in one of the other programs I'm going to do into detail. Now, KPIs generally are the performance. What does KPI mean? Let me at least tell you that. KPI means key performance indicator. Now, key performance indicators are a must for an organization to see their growth level and where they are. Now, these KPIs cannot be too abstract. And I'm telling you that because in one of the organizations that I went, their key performance indicators, KPIs, were so abstract that there were no way in the world that they could have ever met it. And once I confronted, they had to admit that they were wrong. And the reason for that was, one of the KPIs was that they were serving children who were from minority, who were disadvantaged, and they were getting them through this process where they were being educated for 3+ years, and the results were exceptional. But the KPI was that they wanted every single student who was a part of this program to pass the program by 100%, that everybody passes. Not only that, but they also said that everybody in the whole school district, whether they're serving them or not, is also going to pass 100%. Now you tell me, is that a reasonable KPI? Absolutely not. When I asked the CEO, the answer was, well, the last team that told to us, shoot for the stars. That's right, shoot for the stars, but be reasonable. Give a goal to your organization which is achievable. If you say, every single person who is coming in my program, I want 98% of them within the next 5 years to graduate. That is a good thing to vie for because you do not know what the unknowns are. So that was just an example. So that is one of the things I would say, when you create those KPIs, do not be abstract with them. These are the ones that should actually motivate the people to strive for and to go for. And that is another thing which is like your entrepreneurship mindset will help you. Now think about and take a look at other organizations which are profit making. What sort of KPIs do they use? Can you embrace any of their tactics? Start thinking in that. Start also to think in terms of, can you leverage any of the technology or modern era communication platforms, search engine optimization, digital media to educate people and inform people? That is becoming really very strong. I have worked with one nonprofit where I created a whole program for them, where we had a whole digital program which was to help early childcare learners. Now that was became a cash cow for the organization because they were able to sell that program at relatively cheaper rates, but the volume is what helped them. That is what infused money in there. And that was a part of the entrepreneurship. So adopting new ways of doing business can be productive, cost effective, and fun. So friends, this was the last video on the entrepreneurship. And so whatever I told you, think over it. Think of what can you take from this? Any ideas? All I can tell you is that all you need is one idea to be successful. If one idea can be successful, it can take your nonprofit to a different level. So try these ideas, work with them. Some will work, some may not work. But until you try, you will never know. This is Raj Kapoor, present here for your better future. I'll see you soon, my